Well, just when you thought the Gonzaga debate was dead, welcome back. The Big 12 has resumed talks with Gonzaga to join the conference for basketball and some other Olympic sports. Welcome into the channel. I am John Kurtz. Here on this channel, we talk college football, college basketball, and conference realignment, all from a Big 12 angle. If you are new here, please consider subscribing. I'm live on Wednesdays and Sundays. Really lively, really fun live shows, and then I give you content like this throughout the week as well. John-Kurtz-4 if you would like to support the channel on Venmo. So, Gonzaga is back in the picture now, and it is all because, in large part, of what has happened with the ACC and setting a precedent for teams coming in at a proportioned amount of revenue, not taking a full share, aka. The report first originated from Seth Davis, who works now for The Messenger, and we'll start with his story. There are some other details from Dennis Dodd and Brett McMurphy that I wanted to work into, but we start with this. Gonzaga and the Big 12 have resumed top-level discussions about the possibility of the school joining the conference in all sports, perhaps as early as next year, multiple sources told The Messenger. The renewed push is being spearheaded by Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark, who presented his case for Gonzaga's inclusion during last week's Big 12 meetings in Dallas. Yormark made the pitch during separate sessions with league ADs and presidents. He augmented his case with a presentation deck that laid out the data and strategy behind the potential move. And I'm actually going to stop there and go get a Dennis Dodd tweet here to throw in a part of that data that is being spoken about there. Because I know for many people it will be the question, why do this? Why add Gonzaga? Why worry about this program that may or may not be something without Mark Few if he were to ever leave, if that day comes soon? Here's a part of the data that is being used. Dennis Dodd tweets, Gonzaga is a surprising fifth on the metric called TV power, per its consultant. It sits behind Duke, Kentucky, North Carolina, and Kansas, but ahead of Ohio State, Michigan, Michigan State, Arkansas, and Tennessee, which rounded out the top 10. So that is something. Again, I think people would have questions about what happens to Gonzaga if Mark Few, if and when Mark Few is not the head coach anymore. But they are a draw. They're clearly a draw right now. And so that is a big piece of why the Big 12 wants to do this. And remember, Brett Yormark has said repeatedly that he would like to decouple the football and basketball rights potentially when the next TV deal comes around. And if you have the team that's number 5 in the TV power rating to go along with already the best basketball conference in America, that's, I believe, what he is looking to do. Now, it does say in Seth Davis's article, Yormark's proposal took some of the attendees by surprise because he had publicly declared in mid-August that the Big 12's realignment conversations were no longer ongoing after adding Arizona, Arizona State, and Utah. Those schools are finishing up their final seasons in the Pac-12, as is Colorado, which decided in July to leave for the Big 12. Sources say there's no current dialogue with UConn, but over the last several weeks, Yormark has quietly continued talks with Gonzaga's top leadership. Sources told The Messenger that Yormark would like to see Gonzaga join the Big 12 for the 24-25 season, so just next year, but that timetable would be a best-case scenario. The Big 12 schools are still digesting the financial ramifications of adding the schools that agreed over the summer to come on board, as well as this year's additions of Houston, Cincy, BYU, and UCF. There are many logistical questions that would need to be answered, such as scheduling and how the conference tournament format would be adjusted to account for 17 schools with Gonzaga in the mix. And honestly, I mean, yes, that is something that would have to be figured out, but that to me feels very much like a pretty superfluous detail that you'll just figure out after the fact. If the move is going to make sense for the money for everybody involved, long-term, best for the league, you'll figure out how to schedule it. You'll figure out how to do the conference tournament. Despite these logistical issues, Yormark received permission from the Big 12 presidents to continue negotiations. He also has an option of reaching an agreement with Gonzaga that would bring the school on board in 2025. So there you go. He's got the permission that he needs to move forward with all of this for right now. Because Gonzaga is not currently in a power conference and doesn't have a football program, it will not generate any additional revenue under the terms of the Big 12's current rights deal if it joins the league. Gonzaga's location in Spokane, Washington would also present an additional travel burden for everyone, especially since the deal would be for Gonzaga to join the Big 12 for all sports, not just men's basketball. That is kind of a downstream issue here, that if you're going to have to be sending a bunch of other sports out to Gonzaga, that can start to add up some of those travel costs, and that is something I'm sure that will go into the calculus here for all of these schools. Gonzaga's financial calculation, now we're talking about the Gonzaga side of things, all right, so why would they want to join the Big 12? Gonzaga's financial calculation will need to account for the likelihood that it will have to forfeit future payouts from past NCAA tournament appearances if it leaves its current league, the West Coast Conference. For each game a team plays in the tournament, the NCAA distributes approximately $2 million to that school's conference, which is paid over a 6-year period. In 2019, the WCC adjusted its revenue arrangement to allow its schools to keep a greater share of their tournament units. If Gonzaga leaves the WCC, the league, not the school, would receive the money due to be paid over the next several years. This is, to come full circle on the Pac-12 discussion, what has been being debated quite a bit right now in Pac-12 circles about the old schools, the outgoing schools, and the two that are left behind, who's going to get some of that money. When you talk about a Pac-12 war chest, that NCAA tournament money is a piece of that, college football playoff money as well. So I think that can help kind of bring that home for everybody here in the Gonzaga discussion. To close things out here on the Seth Davis article, in order to agree to come to the Big 12, Gonzaga would have to conclude that being a part of the nation's top basketball conference would provide enough ancillary benefits in terms of attendance, marketing, and other revenue streams to make up for those lost dollars. The move could also potentially put Gonzaga in a stronger position to empower its players to make money through name, image, and likeness agreements, which would in turn bolster the program's recruiting efforts. Sources said that if Gonzaga is going to join the Big 12 by next year, a deal would have to be reached by the end of this year, if not much earlier. If that doesn't happen, Yormark can still continue the dialogue in an effort to add Gonzaga at a later date. Quote, this could be a major shift for college basketball, a source said. If the economics work, it's a no-brainer. I tend to feel like that. I mean, I understand the debate here. And by the way, I will point out that's a pretty speedy timeline coming up here. If it's going to be for 24-25, they would need to get it figured out in less than 2 months. So not a lot of time to get that done. But if the economics work, yeah, I mean, I do think that there is a lot of value and a lot of logic potentially in doing this, even if there is the risks that this is a program being ruled by one coach right now. I am all for Brett Yormark having some latitude to take some chances because things have worked out pretty well already. But I know that there are others who would disagree with me on this. And I'm sticking this in the back end of the video. This came from the Brett McMurphy article. Maybe this should have gone sooner because I know this has been a hot topic with some around here. But one nugget that he had in his story was, first of all, a source saying, quote, this would be a major coup for the Big 12. So that's a source. Now, I don't know where that's coming from specifically. It doesn't say like industry source, whatever. It just says a source. But somebody thinks it would be a pretty big get for the Big 12 if they can pull it off. He also said the Big 12 is not considering adding Oregon State or Washington State. So remember that. The Big 12 is not considering Oregon State or Washington State, according to Brett McMurphy. I know he's been pretty steadfast in saying that, and he's doubling down on it here in this story. This reiterates a decision on Gonzaga could come quickly within the next 2 weeks, a source said. Key component is Gonzaga could be willing to accept less revenue at the outset of joining the Big 12, similar to SMU joining the ACC, before the Bulldogs would eventually receive full basketball revenue shares, a source said. So the ACC kind of setting that standard that teams would be willing to do that, looking at USMU, is apparently why these discussions kicked back up. But I know there's a lot of debate about this. I'm sure a lot of you want to weigh in on this. Please do so in the comments. Let me know. Agree with Gonzaga, disagree with Gonzaga. Are you on board or not? Let me know all about it. Please like the video if you could. I would much appreciate that. And again, you can support the channel on Venmo. It is John-Kurtz-4 if you would like to. And make sure you subscribe because we will definitely be talking about this on a Wednesday live show. We will absolutely be discussing this more in detail, take some of your feedback, and you'll have a chance to weigh in as well there. So thank you for tuning in. I appreciate all of you guys. Take care, and I will talk to you soon.